I like that they combine the flashback with the present and that they dive in where they left in the last episode. Though I was already rooting for this new pairing, I enjoyed them fighting nevertheless. Seems to be relationship pattern of Emily. She always wants the upper hand in a relationship, and whenever something goes not as she wants it to be, Emily puts up a fight. The same is with Nolan and Jack. When they accept her leading, everything is fine. But when they question her or want to make things differently, hell breaks loose. What I enjoy plot-wise was that both love interests, Jack and Aiden, have a connection to Emily in the past. Aiden maybe more because he knows Emily's true self, the betrayed girl who wants to take revenge like he himself. While Jack has his idolized childhood version of Amanda, Aiden seems to be truly in love with Emily and all her flaws. That is why I prefer their relationship over Emily and Jack. Though I must admit that his version of Emily is in some kind an illusion Emily puts up for him and even for herself as well. I did not enjoy this kind of flashback with the dogs cause they look not very frightening to me. But I understand the exercise and its purpose. Again, Takeda tries to separate Emily from her emotions so that she becomes his tool, and Aiden is just better in this than her. But I like the transition with Amanda pushing him in the past and then Emily in the present. That was clever. And though the scenes is totally absurd, it is also totally real as they realize they have to get rid of a dead body and all the proofs of a crime scene. A really disturbing tendency that murder becomes a common solution to get rid of characters. In season 1 they had these significant murder that was stuffed for several episodes like Frank and Roger. Not to forget the most significant of all, the flashback of David Clarke's murder. In season 2 they begin with the murder of Victoria and Lydia and this killing of Gordon Murphy. I know it was self-defense since she wanted to kill Emily, but he is still dead. And I think they killed even 2 people of the ever so powerful initiative. Maybe this should show us that the stakes are getting higher, but for my taste they accomplished that even better in season 3. Major spoiler alert for season 3. Cause with Pascal and Aiden, they really took the time to show us not only some thrilling dying scenes but also the impact of those loss. Spoiler alert for season 2. When we get to Kara and what Gordon meant to her, they did not quite capture it that well. Cause they only show us these snippets that tells us not that much how they both felt for each other. And again, Daniel and Victoria deliver us some internal jokes. While Aiden and Emily are cleaning a crime scene, Daniel assumes she is cleaning because she cannot sleep. I am sure that whenever she told him she could not sleep, that was a lie to get time for her revenge work. And that Victoria agrees and even suggests trying this out for herself is just so funny. Can you imagine Queen Victoria cleaning Grayson Manor? Though I wonder how they can see she is cleaning and not recognize that she is not alone. Speaking of Aiden, I like that he is new and kind of a competitor for Emily in these first episodes. He seems to have his own agenda, which seems to be the same as Takeda's. So again we have this pattern, women against men. It was some kind of extreme, but I liked the solution for her problem with Aiden. Ditching him into trash solved bot problems, the dead body and the conflict with Aiden. Though I assume she did not have a permanent solution in mind. Otherwise she would not have gave him this ticket to Japan. She wanted him gone and not dead. The threat should just underline her message. Back to Declan. The elaborate trap for Declan designed by the Ryan brothers was a little too much for me. This was more Emily's style, spying on her victims and exploiting their weak spot. In fact, I did not like the plot around him at all, especially because they took most part of the story behind the Porter family. And what I also disliked is Jack's pride. He has major money problems and is too proud to get either help from Emily or Charlotte. Even though it is smart to stay away from the Graysons, Charlotte is Amanda's sister, so why should she not help them and have contact to her family? In this stage of their relationship, she really just wants to know Amanda and get close to her. even more as she is more and more fed up by the Grayson family and searches for a new support group. And Jack accepted her when she was Declan's girlfriend, so why not again? For Emily, I cannot understand why he does not want to be in her debt. She seems nothing but nice to him so far. Or has he still unresolved feelings and fears they will come back and destroy the little family he builds with Amanda? Anyway, taking the money and solving their problems seems to me the most smart thing to do. About Nolan, Emily and Padma. This and the next scene with him on the phone was fun to watch. As I said before, it never occurred to me that there are a reasonable amount of Emily and Nolan shippers. They always appeared to me as the perfect siblings, not as a romantic couple. Anyway, it is funny and sad that Padma assumes they are a pair and Nolan did not deny it because he cannot put their complicated relationship in words. Padma, who looks really small and nerdy in this scene, must feel like she can never stood a chance against this beautiful and obviously rich version of a perfect girlfriend Emily seems to be. Superficially funny, too, that Emily does not step in to help Nolan but waits eager to hear what Nolan will say. Since Emily has a very good radar for people, it was some kind of approval that she did not saw red flags regarding Nolan's interest for her. I enjoyed that the roles were reversed this time. Instead of Nolan meddling into her private life and trying to push her into Jack's direction, Emily tells Nolan to make the next step with Padma. About Victoria, Emily and Amanda. I think I found the flaw in my thinking. I always thought it was odd that Victoria is doubting Fauxmanda as David Clarke's daughter and still not recognizes it is in fact Emily who is Amanda Clarke. Cause we all have seen the flashbacks and now of the identity swap I cannot think about anything else. Yet there are numerous other explanations why Fauxmanda claims to be David Clarke's daughter. She could be a con artist who is eager for attention. This would be the same assumptions Victoria makes about Emily in Season 3. That she tries to marry into a powerful and rich family and Daniel is her perfect target to accomplish just that. Anyway, it seems not that far-fetched since rich people have always the problem that con artists and frauds try to lighten them of their money. I like this scene with Emily and Victoria drinking tea in the winter garden. There is something I enjoy generally in second seasons. They always try to introduce new characters, new settings and give us more views of the established settings. In this case, Grayson Manor and the beach house. Though both houses are very different in scale and style, I like the look of them both. I would like to be a guest in Grayson Manor only to see all those details, like you would like to walk through Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle. And Emily's beach house I would buy or rent immediately if I could afford it. What is funny that Victoria tries to cap all ties with Emily and keep her away from Charlotte and Daniel only to achieve the opposite. In order to regain contact and keep information about the Graysons afloat, Emily turns back to Daniel. By watching this again, it is annoying how smoothly the writers go along. When one source dries out as Victoria and Charlotte or Emily tries to get close to her first choice Daniel again. In the end it is meaningless which Grayson child grants her access. Emily is pursuing them altogether as her backup plan. About Aiden finding the flight recorder and Emily's mother. In all the drama and anticipation of finding Kara Clarke, the fact that Aiden finds the authentic flight recorder from Flight 193 is lost. I mean, it was very unlikely that Gordon Murphy traveled around with this thing, or if he even lived there together with Kara. Why should he keep such a dangerous proof near her? But it was an important step in the long and windy road of proving the innocence of Amanda's father. And I will always love the dramatic scene at the end of this episode, when Aiden hands this proof over to Emily. I think they never made it clear how important that thing was for Emily and her mission to exonerate her father and restore his name. Anyway, it was thrilling to finally meet Amanda's mother. and find out piece by piece in what relationship she stands with the white-haired man aka Gordon Murphy. My first impression of Kara Clarke. Though she was very much troubled and unsteady, she seems more self-aware and accomplished. I assume because she has to live in hiding her true identity very much as her daughter, she has developed some skills, like attention to details. As she points out, Aiden is driving no police car as a detective. Her mistrust seems to be appropriate since she calls to confirm her suspicions. I assume since Gordon could not be around the whole time, he has instructed her in some way how to react, in case someone of the initiative or the Graysons would have found out that she had not fulfilled his assignment but spared Kara's life. About Amanda and Emily. I hate that Emily always abuses Fauxmanda's feelings for her. In this scene she clearly tries to make Fauxmanda feel bad for her getting everything, while Emily seems to have nothing but her revenge in her life, and that she is blackmailing her with the lie she got the test result manipulated in her favor is just so dark. And I must admit that almost all her scenes with Jack in Season 2 feel awkward. Maybe they were intended to be cause she needed to put some space between them in order to accept the new life that lies ahead of Jack and Amanda. But since Season 4 you see zero chemistry between the two of them. Some sparks maybe at the end of Season 3 on Jack's side when they are finally reconciled. But Emily seems not at all attracted to him, so for me the idea of Emily and Jack as the most romantic couple in Revenge seems to be very odd. Nolan getting attacked by Aiden was again something like a running joke. Nolan and Jack seems to be the ones who always get attacked in order to either threaten, blackmail or in this case protect Emily. I like the idea that Aiden is something like a machine. He is trained and programmed in the same fashion as Emily. Takeda made him his little revenge puppets and tried to eliminate not only their emotions but their free will. But as with Emily, Aiden got more soft and opened up to his emotions. I like how he grows into a true friend of Nolan till the end of Season 3. Though they both came together because of Emily and always stood in context to her, they developed a deeper connection. As always, Nolan and Gabriel Mann's interpretation of that character is what keeps these three characters and the story behind them together. About the new flashback. I like that in some kind Emily's relationship with Aiden took the place of the relationship with her father. In many ways they mirror the flaws and good character traits of David and her lovers. Daniel seems as naive and trusting as David was. Jack has the same amount of pride and nobility as David seemed to have. And Aiden has the same instincts of protecting Emily and devoting his life to her as David did in his role as a father. Even his most grievous failure was the same. He felt in love with the woman that ultimately brought him death. About Emily's and Aiden's backstory. I know it is more than predictable, but does not make it untrue or false. The idea that Amanda has fallen in love during her training as a young adult is not at all creative. I actually like this backstory. It gives their relationship more ground and is a far better reason why Aiden is her ally than just that Takeda sent him. And that he has his own agenda by saving his sister makes him even more fitting for Emily. He knows firsthand what she was going through cause he had suffered the same way, so they share an experience and a common goal. And they are in a similar way damaged goods, as you would call them. Seems to me a perfect match. This scene with Nolan moving out was heartbreaking. I do not like when he and Emily fight, though it is inevitable since Emily is a rough person to be around. It was nice to see that this time Nolan cannot stand sitting next to her while Emily tries to get near him. As I said before, she really starts getting vulnerable and more soft in this season. That they part on a forgiving note with Nolan pointing out that finding her mother is enough thanks just breaks my heart every time I watch this scene. And what I really love about the hunt for Amanda's mother is that we get new information in tiny little pieces like before with the David Clarke conspiracy. That was one particular and I think even crucial part of the story they did right. In the end, they just not had enough time to make a whole fulfilling story that gave us answers to all our burning questions about Charlotte and Fauxmanda. Though I do not like that Emily is using Charlotte and Fauxmanda in this way, it was nice to see the two together. Since we first saw her, Fauxmanda's prior need and desire was to have someone to belong to and a family. With Amanda, she seemed to gain a real sister, even though this girl was only using her. But with Jack and Charlotte, she seems to find people that truly love her because of who she is, not who she pretends to be. So it is nice to see that Fauxmanda is reluctant to lie to Jack and Charlotte, even if it is for her or Emily's sake. You can see her discomfort and even more how she longs to be part of Charlotte's and Jack's family. About Daniel finally getting to know the truth. As I dislike that Daniel can be played by any character in the show, including Aiden, who sent the passport to him. It was good to see that the plot was moving forward faster than I thought. Not always I was happy with the fast speed in Season 2. But I appreciate that they build up the tension for the arrival of the new old threat, the Initiative, after Gordon Murphy was dead already. And that they extended the mistrust and scheming from Grayson parents over to the children, especially to Daniel, was something I enjoyed. In this house, nobody trusts anybody and everybody is plotting against each other, like in medieval Italy with the Medici family. The fact that Daniel apologizes to Emily for his mother's behavior made me dream about them reuniting and scheming against his family in the first place. And her advice to him about playing this game better than his mother comes truly from the heart. It is something Emily tries to do herself till the very end. About Victoria's interview. I do not know if Emily expected Victoria to welcome Fauxmanda into her family publicly, or if she just wanted to show Fauxmanda what lies the Graysons are spinning. Maybe she just wanted to watch her firsthand so that she can return to being her ally willingly again. Or she wanted Victoria to see Fauxmanda so that would provoke some kind of reaction. Anyway, I think with searching for answers about her mother she goes too far. She even brings Fauxmanda and her unborn baby in real danger in the next episode. And with this, she is also the reason for new trouble between Jack and Fauxmanda. So at the beginning of this season, Emily is back on track by being selfish and doing everything to reach her goals no matter what the cost. I also do not understand the purpose of this whole sequence. What is Victoria's agenda here? Does she want to close the ranks so that anyone who tries to attack them is intimidated? What makes her think that Gordon Murphy is someone who watches the news? And why should a murder by hire be intimidated by such a charade? I think he and the Initiative knows far better how to get rid of people in quiet fashion, so no one asks questions as the Graysons. And did it not occur to her that with this she would just draw more attention of the Initiative towards her family? Victoria must have known that this whole standing by her side gig was just for the show, and that in fact nobody of her family stands on her side. But what I do like in this scene is how Emily, Daniel and Victoria are exchanging looks. Victoria knows exactly how Daniel feels about Emily, and she assumes that Emily will play a bigger role in his life in the future again. And Emily reassures Daniel to play his part in the charade, but pursuing his own agenda in secret. However, I can perfectly understand why Victoria is taking Fauxmanda into the fold. She just wants to hurt Emily, cause Victoria assumes that Emily was thinking she would include her and therefore was around for the press conference and to sneak up on Daniel, of course. Victoria could not know that Emily was there to ensure that Fauxmanda would be there. Anyway, I like how they mirror this behavior of Victoria using the press to hurt Amanda in Season 4. Major spoiler alert when she is giving that interview with David and keeps Amanda apart from him. Something that is very much realistic for a matriarch like her, using the media to fight a war against her enemies. That Emily not only is standing there watching but also ordering Fauxmanda to go and join the Graysons is a deadly mistake. She puts Fauxmanda again into the center of attention and risks her being a new casualty of the Graysons. About Conrad and Victoria, I like how Conrad jumps at the opportunity of getting her back. If you think about it, for him it all makes sense. He is using the threat of the initiative as a tool to keep Victoria on his side and control his son. Spoiler alert. And since he is the only one who knows that the initiative is not actually a threat for him, neither for his family, he has nothing to lose. This scene between Fauxmanda and Jack was just so sad. It is nice that he finally can understand why Fauxmanda wants so desperate to reconnect with her sister, and his analogy with Declan is really fitting. But that he seems to end their relationship over this little lie while Fauxmanda has done much worse things to him just seemed to me like an overreaction. I know it could have been the last straw that broke the camel's back. However, when you see Fauxmanda's devastation and know how Emily blackmailed her to be there, it was just too sad. Again, Fauxmanda has to take the consequences for things Emily is originally responsible for. Sir Emily's phrase from season 3 is true: Amanda deserved far better treatment by her. About the flashback with the last piece of the puzzle,
your lover has left you behind.
I like that they make us go on a journey into Emily's and Aiden's past with these little significant snippets. Like the backstory about the framing of David Clarke, Aiden's backstory gets clearer and more elaborate from flashback to flashback. Though I was sad for Emily that he screwed her over in the past and left without saying goodbye to her. It was a compelling idea that he was back to help Emily to make it right and maybe regain her trust and love. And Takeda's lesson casts an exposing light to his true motives. He wants to drive a wedge between her and Aiden so that she is isolated and can be better controlled by him. And that he draws a parallel to her father's fate is just cruel. It is the anchor of her trust issues and surely her most weak spot. His lesson is even worse since the training and Takeda is all of her world and means everything to Emily. The last scene with Emily hearing the voice of her mother for the first time again is killing me still. All this time she just was so fixated on her father and his fate that she could not think about anyone else of her family. Then in season 1 Charlotte came into the picture as her half-sister, and now she is Shorty before seeing her mother again. I cannot imagine what this means to Emily. It cannot even begin to compensate her loss, but it is a beginning for her. That she can finally open up a bit more and let people into her life. Besides how much disappointing the whole storyline with her mother was, it showed Emily that she is not alone. And that she has people who she cares about and that also care about her. The first step in breaking out of this isolation, like her friendship with Nolan and the relationship with Fauxmanda. So I was really looking forward to see them finally meet in the next episode.